On my show, we talk about the myriad constructs of the 20 to 30-something in regards to pop culture. We call it boldly going nowhere. To my right here is Benjamin Schmerler. Ben, why don't you tell people about yourself?
I have a lot of opinions about Starfox, and I played a lot of the games. I collect retro games, and I stream on Twitch sometimes. I'm actually having a panel here at 5:30 about retro game collecting, if you guys want to join me, and we're going to give away some stuff. But I just decided to join Colin and talk about my love/hate of Starfox.
Yes, and it is quite divisive, honestly, if you think about it, because
Sure.
when you look back at the history of Starfox, they've made, I'd say, 3 good games, 2 awful games.
So why don't you name them out explicitly so that we
Okay.
can create a flame war in the
Yeah, okay, there we go. Let's get the vitriol going early.
Yeah.
So, all right, I think Star Fox for the Super NES,
Okay.
Star Fox 2, even though technically it wasn't released in America, only on the SNES Classic,
Okay.
and Star Fox 64.
Yes.
Those are what I consider to be the good Star Fox games.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting that for such an iconic series that, you know, you see these characters that have gone into Smash Brothers, and obviously the fans idolize them and things like that. I mean, you could look at the actual franchise and there are a lot of missteps, so.
That's putting it politely.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest here. Star Fox Adventures, Star Fox Assault.
Yeah. Well, Star Fox Adventures wasn't even originally a Star Fox game. It was
Nope.
Dinosaur Planet, and then they decided to skin Fox into it basically and make it a Star Fox game.
Just cause.
And I think what doesn't help, so the game afterwards, I guess it's Assault on GameCube, which is a little bit, you know, more in the mainline games. Also, I don't think really lived up to people's expectations, especially coming off 64. I mean, me personally, Star Fox 64 is one of my all-time favorite games. I mean, I would put it in like top 5 in N64 games, period. Even though it's short and everything like that, it's just so replayable. And it's so much personality. I mean, there's a reason we're quoting it all these years later, and it's basically the entire game is a meme.
Yeah.
Not just because it's funny, but because it's an actually good game. It's the full realization of what the series is.
All right. So when we had a discussion on our show about, oh God, I'd say 11 months ago, because the Switch, you know, was doing okay. It had Breath of the Wild. It had Mario Odyssey coming out at the time. But I was like, I've heard nothing about, you know, a new Star Fox game, like specifically for the Switch. I'm not talking like a port of Zero to, you know. And I was just like,
do we want a port of Zero on the Switch?
No,
is that
no,
something
we
we
don't.
want?
But
raise your
again,
hand in the audience if you want a port of Star Fox. I almost said Star Wars Zero. Star
Right.
Fox Zero on the Switch. Raise your hand if that's something you actually want.
Okay, so
I think. Yeah, I mean, if they actually fix the problems with it, maybe. But I mean, I think you could look even outside of that and see issues with the game in terms of development. But I'm sorry. Please
No,
continue.
you're good. You're good. So we discussed. I came up with the I guess the genesis of what this panel is going to be talking about.
Genesis.
Yeah, right. And I call this game idea Star Fox Armada. And the idea behind this is that I feel like even though Star Fox Adventures obviously was hot garbage. It was.
It's not a Star Fox game.
It's not. But the thing is, I feel like it addressed the one thing that no other Star Fox game had, is that Star Fox at its core, and Ben, go with me on this, Star Fox, the Star Fox team as it is it's a mercenary unit. I mean, they literally say that in the opening expository dump at the beginning of Star Fox 64.
Their legs, I'm pretty sure this is well documented on the internet. Their legs don't actually exist anymore. Isn't it actually metal now? I mean, they are such mercenaries that they actually went to deform their own bodies just for their own mission. So I mean, I think there's something admirable about that.
Right.
Go ahead.
I mean,
Oh, are they? Okay. So see, this is the thing. It's not even really a Star Fox game. It's decannoned. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
well, I'm just saying, it's just like as much as as much as people shit on Star Fox Adventures, it's just the one thing I always took issue with the early Star Fox games was like, you're attempting to repel an intergalactic invasion, but yet you do it in one fairly simplistic air battle, which, I mean, like literally Star Wars took 6 entire movies to tell 2 revolutions on that sort of. You can't realistically tell me, yes, that is hands down
here too.
Like one air battle will repel an entire planetary invasion. It's just not possible. So that's one of the first things I would do, is that you would have to expand out the combat from not only air combat but also land combat as well. I mean, and you can and see, the thing is that I'm not a huge fan of modern first person shooters. You know, like your Call of Duties and what's another one?
Battlefield.
Thank you. It's like, I'm sorry, they bleed together, so they're just this big homogenous mess at this point.
Let me ask a question real quick, just to make sure I understand where you're going with this. So what you're saying is Star Fox in the modern era in 2019, I almost said 2018, in 2019 needs to have a more encompassing scope as a war struggle.
Yeah.
So what you're getting at is your game design is going to broaden what Star Fox is beyond just a simple space shooting on rails basically game.
Yes.
Okay.
Because again, it is war on an intergalactic scale. It's an entire universe you're fighting to retake, essentially.
It's interspecial. It's that
Also
big of
true.
a war.
Well, so is Halo.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true. I mean, although I wouldn't go as far as, well,
Yeah.
fair enough. But, this is Brian Massey, everybody.
Hi.
Brian's a co-host on our podcast. And Brian was there for the genesis of this idea. So he's heard my mad rantings about how this could be fixed.
Over and over and over.
So what's the first mechanic that you're going to add outside of the space flight? What's the first thing that you would add?
Well, let's see. I would honestly say that you have to set up, so obviously ground-based combat. I mean, there is ground-based combat.
Ground-based combat meaning on foot, or do you mean ground-based combat like a tank or something like that?
I would honestly say both, because, obviously, maybe not so much on Corneria, just because, the Cornerian Defense Force already has a very solid control of the planet. It's just, again, it's being invaded from the air. So the bulk of that mission can be, it's planetary defense. I'm talking about once you get to the other planets. Like, once you get to, say, you're going to have to help me. What's the one with the train? I'm trying to remember.
64 has a train.
Sorry, Macbeth? Thank you. So I just was like, it's the train level. Yeah, that one. But I'm just saying, like, you can't tell me that you've completely repelled the entirety of Andross's forces, which has already occupied this planet, by blowing up a depot with a train. This is not. Like, create some secondary objectives, and squad-based combat could be hugely advantageous in this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, in every, like, for instance, I mean, you've got Fox, which is your all-around general leader, which would probably be the first-person character that you'd be playing as anyway.
Can I play devil's advocate to some of your ideas?
Yeah, sure. No,
Okay.
go ahead. I mean, that's
So,
the whole point of this.
Would you be doing, sorry not to interrupt,
ahead,
would you be
please.
doing like a Super Mario Bros. 2 kind of thing with the different characters? Like they do different abilities and shit?
I mean, I would honestly say probably through the first run-through, we'd require you to play as Fox only, but you could, like, I don't know, maybe like a Mass Effect style commands list. Like, you could command, like, for instance, Slippy is your electronics expert, so Slippy could override doors that you couldn't get into in order to get to certain objectives, or hack out enemy computers, or something akin to that.
All right.
So I sort of have a question for the audience, and I think this is kind of a fundamental with the series for Star Fox and where it goes from here in terms of actually having a good Star Fox game again. I almost feel like you have 2 paths you could take. You could broaden the gameplay and make it more sort of AAA, where it's not just the space stuff, but that you have more of these sort of side mechanics. And I guess if you executed very well on all of them, it could perhaps be a good game, but a very diverse game, much more like a typical third-person action game might see in today. But I would make the argument that perhaps the series needs to be a little bit more back to its roots and be more of a situation like a reboot of 64, where they were focusing on the core things that got people into the series in the first place, which was this really tight on-rails shooter that gave the player some choice, had some divergence in replayability, but was ultimately an arcade shooter. And you could do it two ways. You could have like a $60 game that is doing a lot of the things you describe, but have a huge development cycle. And what would likely happen, because this is what happens with a lot of big games with very diverse gameplay, is that some of it works and some of it doesn't.
That is true.
But if the other side of this, and you see this a lot with indie titles and budget titles these days, is that you, rather than focus on making a big, broad game, you make a super tight experience that's just focused on the things that the fans like. In an ideal world, we could have both, right? Where you could say, let's take Star Fox Adventures, a game that has promise, and build upon it and actually turn it into something where it actually has meaning in the greater Star Fox universe. Sort of the way with the Kirby games, the non-mainline Kirby games, even though they're not necessarily like those original platformers, they're appreciated based on their uniqueness.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that Nintendo necessarily gets rid of Kirby games. Like Star Allies is kind of like a traditional mechanical style Kirby game.
It was a lot of fun, by the way.
So I guess what I would ask is, in the audience, would you prefer something like what Colin's talking about, something very diverse and broad and big, or something a little bit more tight, maybe a short experience today? What do you guys think? Do we have any feedback? Anything's better than zero.
I mean, truer words.
Star Fox is an on-rail shooter. When you think of it, your mind will go either to the 64 or the Super Nintendo.
I agree.
What you're talking about was done in Assault, and taking away the cartoony and childish aspects of Assault, it was not fun. Star Fox, as war, is a fighter pilot. You wouldn't see Tom Cruise in Top Gun get out of his jet and go beat up some Koreans or whoever. So
Koreans.
out of his plane is a mistake anyway.
Right, and the thing is, I'm not saying that I want to make the majority of this game strictly, foot-based, or, I'm saying that on a combat level of that scale, you can't merely expect a single skirmish to completely subvert the entirety of that,
So
The Star Fox team was hitting key points at each planet while the Army was dealing with the war in itself.
aren't these sort of also two different mechanics of a game, or two different elements of a game? Colin, I feel like you're talking about the story and realism of a greater Star Fox universe. And, sir, I don't know what your name is, but what you're talking about is more about the gameplay itself, right? Not so much the story elements and how do they take over, how do they beat Andros back in this bigger meta universe. You're just like, I just want to shoot stuff. And there's merit to that.
Well,
Yeah, that is true.
The war came out of the little quips.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Somebody else had a comment, Miss.
I was going to say that if they were going to go with his idea of a more open world environment,
Mm-hmm.
if they could balance when you're going on missions, the co-op, basically you have all 4 players, kind of like Star Ocean style. where
Okay.
you work together and you control your different people. But if they could add the magic of Breath of the Wild and an open world experience on like a galactic,
That'd be cool.
a lot of development for writers to basically fill out a wonderful intergalactic universe that would be worth $60. I'm not paying $60 to see another version of 64.
I agree.
Right.
I have another question based on where you went with that, which is, so obviously Starlink came out, especially on the Switch, and that has these Star Fox tie-ins. And I have not played it personally, but Colin, have you? Or
No,
anyone
I
else?
haven't played it.
I have not yet.
Obviously, it is a more ambitious thing, and it connects planets and such things like that. And you'll have to excuse me. I haven't played it myself, so I couldn't tell you exactly how it works. But
It's really just overlaid on top of the main story, except it's a spoke off the story. It's a small
Okay.
based. It still talks to the other characters.
I see.
Starlink obviously on non-Nintendo platforms is not a Fox.
I see.
Game. But you just have the option of controlling our way instead.
Mhm.
The chatter between the main cast and the Star Fox cast, there's a slightly different story, slightly different ending, but it does kind of similar to that, because if in such a condition of an open world area, if you had the lineup system, let's say as Hyrule size, for example, in wild, but you had, say, 10 or 11 key points, including planets, asteroid belts, Armada, shit like that, you could have either dogfight sections between them and traveling, you could have landmaster sections, you could have, the one thing 64 had was you had options. You could have gone for all 64 and not touched a single landmaster.
Yeah.
You could have never touched Aquos, which was the only submarine level. So if some of those were replaced by, say, for example, a couple on similar on-rail on-foot sections, similar to Time Crisis, but not such as bad, cover-based shooting, advanced, cover-based shooting, advanced, only as an option, but not as a requirement.
Yeah, no, I definitely
Really
agree
good
with
ideas.
that.
Yeah, something fun. And then if you did that on such a grand scale as 20 key locations, but there were actual objectives from A to B, and then something that happens here could affect something backwards on the path, it could make a large game, but you did like Bethesda level studio for that shit.
Yep.
Do we want Bethesda level?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't necessarily say Bethesda, but
Do we want the Arwing clipping
Shots
through
fired.
through the planet? Do we really want that?
You know, one thing. Yeah.
On game ones themselves could not do it.
Yeah.
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 Sorry, you had something to say, Brian, I think, before I ask my question.
Well, actually, I'm thinking if you wanted to do the kind of game that you wanted, it would probably have to be like a spin-off, and it would be like Starfox is obviously like, you know, the Air Brigade. What if they had like a side mission, kind of like ODST, where like, hey, you're part of a group that's on foot?
Bill Squad.
Well,
Yeah.
what if the next Metal Gear game had Star Fox in it? No. Yes, Amanda, you had a comment?
Yeah, so I know we're talking about like on-foot missions, assumingly on a planet. It's been a very long time since I had touched a Star Fox game, like maybe 20 years or so.
It's a rhythm game now.
Well, you know. But
Dance pad sold separately.
talking planets, what if we had something like, I don't know, a space station that was just really expensive, and then people attack space stations and try to, you know, in games around.
I was just thinking that.
And like you're a shooter trying to get into your ship, so that's like it also you can have day-to-day, I guess, interactions with your teammates. There might be objectives on the ship.
Okay, so you actually bring up a good point. So the original idea for this game is that once you fight your way off of, the idea for Star Fox Armada is once you fight your way off of Corneria and Great Fox actually leaves the planet, and I hate making this connection, but honestly, I feel like it's the only decent analog. I would say it's something akin to Mass Effect in the Normandy. Like you can choose what branching paths you want to go off on.
Right.
There'll be different objectives for each individual planet. Saying, like for instance, like you come to the asteroid belt for essentially it's if memory serves correctly, it's Corneria, then the asteroid belt, then it
Right.
branches off into the 3 separate planets, right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of these ideas that you talk about with Star Fox and Armada, I almost feel like we could, to your point, that we could get really back to the core mechanics of the game that made it so good in terms of the actual gameplay.
Yeah.
And you could tie these universe things and connecting planets, you know, bigger, broader elements of it without necessarily sacrificing some of the core gameplay mechanics and still focusing on it being a tight experience. You could have, you know, different pilots. You could have different ships, different custom, maybe even different ways to play the game. You know, if this ship, well, it has really strong shots, but only can shoot at this rate or something like that. You know, where it gives players reasons to come back to the game.
Yeah.
It's still true to what the fans originally wanted and things like that. And the good news is Nintendo is watching all of this, so we'll definitely get everything we want. Yes.
Shigsy, are you watching?
I think you had. Did you have another comment?
As long as we don't get like a cease and desist, we should be fine.
In 64, where you can go from planet to planet, it's just kind of like a line.
Uh huh.
Instead of a line, you can just actually travel that distance.
Mm.
Your job is just to kind of guard Great Fox.
It could be like Bionic Commando, where you run into people on the. No, I'm just kidding. It shouldn't be like that.
Or like Wind Waker, kind of where you're traveling.
Yeah.
After a while, you get tired of doing
Fast travel.
Yeah.
Autopilot. Like you just put on autopilot and like just kind of rock out in your cockpit or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of ways to solve those grind issues. But I mean, If you ask me, I mean, the series, and you even see this, I think, in Star Fox 2 when it came out on the SNES Classic, which is that the parts of that game, and again, it's the same problem with Star Fox Zero, where you're not doing the core thing that people came to the series for. It's just not quite as fun. Yeah. And I think Star Fox 2 suffers for that. And I think I know everyone was very excited about that game, that official release when it came out, and there's fun things to be had about it. There's sort of reason. There's reasons why Star Fox 64 came out and that game didn't. So it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Is Armada a new story, a sequel, or?
So my opinion, I feel like there's already such expanded storylines, and honestly, I don't think you need to necessarily. All right, so this is my idea for it. So instead of doing a straight up, like, because obviously everybody knows the controls for Star Fox, and honestly, you know, the space-based combat. So I really don't think there's much you can or should muck about with there. However, for those who are, say, new to the series, I mean, whatever percentage of the population is left that hasn't played a Star Fox game at this point, one of the easiest ways to do that and to immerse people into that campaign, because this is something they also haven't expanded on in any of the previous Star Fox games, except the initial expository dump in Star Fox 64, was why not as a initial, I guess,
like a prequel?
Yeah, essentially you play
Like
as the
that?
original Star Fox team. You play as James McCloud, Peppy
interesting.
Hare, Pigma Dengmar, doing their initial, because in my imagining of it, the idea is you start there, like that is your tutorial. You're basically flying over Venom doing their
It should be like a
reconnaissance
Red
mission
Dead
when
2
they get
kinda
shot
thing.
down and captured. Like that's your basic reconnaissance mission. Like you get used to the R-wing controls there, and then like you fight your way out to escape for Peppy to fly back to Conaria to let them know that, you know.
You could make
Spoiler alert that James McCloud died.
I was gonna say you could make it super dark, and the player knows, like, starting the game, that it's gonna have like a dark ending. It would be. I mean, Nintendo could go there.
I'm just saying it's well, and also
I was so afraid, by the way, that you were gonna go with like the Star Trek 2009, like, oh, it's an alternate timeline kind
No.
of thing.
No. I'm just saying. Well, like,
like,
for
James
instance, it's just
McCloud
like
is Andros.
a lot. Yeah, right. I'm just saying a lot of Star Fox is like there's so much potential to tell such a great story, but it's just like go fly and shoot stuff, which again I love.
Yeah.
I play Star Fox 64 on a fairly regular basis. I've always just been like, so why can't we?
I think you should chalk that up to limitations of the medium, though. I mean,
At the time,
the
yes.
SNES and N64 were going for a specific kind of experience. I don't think, certainly not on Super Nintendo, that they anticipated any attachment to the lore at all. I mean, it was very much a tech demo to show off the 3DFX chip. That was a pretty good game, but you know, it's funny, you said right at the beginning of the panel, like Star Fox, you know, that was the first great Star Fox game, but it's one of the least playable Star Fox games today. I mean, the frame rate is really bad, and it's got a lot of technical issues, and it has no analog, so the controls to me are a little weird. And so that's not what Nintendo anticipated, and I think 64 really captured that, and that's sort of where I think people wanted these broader experiences. They wanted more games. They wanted more lore. That's the reason Assault was able to exist. Why these other games even can be concepts.
Yeah, and so
I think we have a question.
Oh yeah.
No, I was gonna say, you had mentioned how you could have your tutorial be that an NPC plays when Peppy leaves. That would be a fantastic area where that would basically, you going through a tutorial and then you see the conclusion, but then you would fast forward, basically, it would be Peppy's flashback, then facing the destruction they're seeing aboard whatever on Corneria before they run off to try to deal with it and then escape. It would be a beautiful segue.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Exactly.
And if that was the prequel part
Got your next.
of the tutorial, then it gives an excuse to have upgrades in your ships. That you start with your basic stuff because it was years ago, and now you have upgrades. You have it's a faster ship, but it only shoots so far, or it has a wide spread, or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's differences in the ships, or you can stick with your old school what your dad was driving.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like. Sorry.
I want to get one more comment. This gentleman has been very patient back there.
I love the idea of having to play
Uh-huh.
James McCloud. But what character would you play? Would you play James McCloud? Would you play Peppy Hare? Or would you play
Ooh.
Vanguard? You have to take the shot. It's kind of like Assassin's Creed 3 beginning. You actually play as.
You know, I hadn't thought of that idea, but that is interesting. You know what? Part of me is like, I want to say James McCloud, but maybe play as Pepe, because Pepe would be the one. You know, Pepe gets shot down, Pepe gets captured along with James, but Pepe's the only one who makes it back.
What if you did it like Mega Man X3, where like you start off that initial stage as like X, and then like he gets captured or whatever, and then you play as Zero? You kind of do like you start off as Pappy. Pappy
Okay.
gets incapacitated. You then play as James.
Well, so you play as no. You could start as James.
Peppy
James gets
kills
captured.
James at the end. Twist.
It was a mercy kill.
I killed Mufasa.
Yeah. I've been joining you this whole time, Starfox, and I killed your father.
Right. All right. So.
Yeah.
All right.
As you're playing like Pigman Vanguard, like there's a scene where like he does betray them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine like during that scene, like you holding the control, like you know you have to take the shot, but if you don't, like Wolf does it for you, and it's like, we'll see, there is something.
Well, it's like, or you know, it could be like if you don't take the shot within X amount of time, the game just automatically goes to a cutscene and the game does it for you. It's just like whatever, it's happening. Just deal with it.
I'd rather have it where, like somebody else does it. Everybody knows Pigma's like not that ballsy to do. Or like you see it kind of in Assault where Pigma kind of leaves.
Or maybe it could be Venomian space, you know, space cannon. They just like, oh, they locked onto their location and boom, there, problem solved.
I think you had a
All right,
question?
You had a question.
I was kind of continuing off of the parallels you were making with Mass Effect earlier, following with Peppy leaving and coming back as the only remaining member. I mean, it's a tried and true storytelling method, like a coming of age story. Like the story could possibly be the formation of Team Star Fox 2.0, like you would play as Peppy. Here's Fox. He doesn't know a joystick from
So one of the things that I also with this game would want to do is who here I want to gauge the audience on this. Who here has read the Star Fox Nintendo Power comics? Anybody? All right.
Wow.
I wanted to. Have you read them?
I didn't know they existed.
Yeah, it's true. Sorry. So
That's cool, though. I
they're-
would read
oh
them.
yeah. Then
They did like a
honestly,
Mario, a Zelda, a Metroid, and a Star Fox one.
Yeah.
and for certain characters, I feel like it fleshes more of their character out. Like for instance, Fox he's cocky, but he's also got this really big hang up about how Peppy, you know, being the surrogate father figure in his life, just keeps being compared to his father, and he's like, I'm not my father, please stop comparing me to him. It's not like, and that's a gameplay. I mean, that's another bit of expansion you can have to this game is like you have all these different characters.
We
like,
can have a tender moment between James and Fox
take care of my
McCloud.
boy.
So, who named? By the way,
My
is it
boy.
weird to like if you're James McCloud and you have a son? Is it weird to name your son his species? So like, like I just named my kid Human Schmerler.
Right. So
All right, human
Boy,
massive.
right? Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Boy.
so-
You've got to be good now.
So, but I feel like, I mean, this is like Fox can be, you know, cocky, he can be competent, but, you know, obviously he's got these hang-ups. Peppy, you know, obviously is, you know, the grizzled veteran, but obviously from that kind of experience is going to be suffering from some form of post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, Slippy is obviously, you know, your tech expert, complete genius there, but complete rubbish at almost everything else.
I think if we're gonna have a prequel, also we have to get into the origins of the barrel roll. And you know, there's all this talk about doing a barrel roll, but how did we learn how to do a barrel roll?
How do barrel
we
roll?
need these are untold stories that need to be fleshed out.
Yeah. How do barrel roll?
Right. So yeah.
Me
so,
no.
So like definitely the origin story I feel like would be your tutorial.
You
to
could
get
have like
you,
a montage, and he can't quite barrel roll yet.
Yeah. Or it's like some half-assed barrel roll, and he's like, oh, I should remember that.
I can't get it. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes.
I think in the back we
We
have a
got questions?
question.
Isn't the barrel roll actually supposed to be part of the technology that actually allows you to just like shot or something? Isn't something how those ships are built?
Yeah, but you gotta learn how to do it, right? You gotta, or maybe the machine does it all. But
And
this is why we have to tell this story.
Well, and I guarantee
Is there-
you,
clear the
that's-
record.
Is
Yeah,
there a button that says barrel roll on like the console? Like
And I also guarantee you that
press
even
button to spin real fast.
even that was a happy byproduct. They definitely, the first time someone did a barrel roll, and that's like, huh, that shot got deflected. They weren't expecting that to happen. So it's like, oh, what? Okay, sure, why not?
Yes.
Isn't the barrel supposed to be an avion roll?
Oh, isn't that like a game theory thing or something? Or I know what you mean. Yeah, I think I saw some.
Just a theory.
Yes, it's
A barrel roll theory.
Yes, they need to get into and clarify why they in this universe call it a barrel roll, and come up with that rationalization. Do they even have barrels in this world?
It was because of a
to
Donkey Kong
roll-
crossover
to-
that
of
never
which to roll?
happened, probably.
Now there you go. Donkey Kong crossover never
Did
happened.
you have a question? Yes, you.
So like I do think like you're talking the way you're talking about the prequel and like expanding or like getting a little bit more lore out of it kind of reminds me of a certain recent Rockstar game in a sense where they would also go to their prequel and expand on the characters and what happened.
Yeah. Shooting Cowboy Tootin'
Yeah,
too.
I totally agree. In fact, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, what I don't want to spoil Red Dead 2, but it would be great if you had James McLeod weird reflections over Willie Nelson folk music or something at some point of the game or whatever equivalent there it would be. So, yes, I think you had another one.
In Star Fox Armada, would James McLeod look different or just Star Fox or something?
I mean, I feel like, yeah, I was gonna say, I think we'd have to like at least give him some distinguishing features to differ him from Fox. I mean, part of me
Would
really
we
still
meet
wants
Star
them cool
Fox-
aviator
Fox's mom?
sunglasses, but what?
Would we meet Fox's mom, and would she actually be a fox? Would she
Mama
be a
Fox?
foxy fox?
That's a good question. See, now, mind you, when I was
This would
writing
be
this, I
your
didn't
knowledge.
go as far into the lore as, oh, Star Fox's mom and something like that.
I feel like that would be like an anime adaptation kind of thing, where like it's like a series that's alongside the game. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know.
Oh, side anime.
Side anime.
I could go with that.
Yeah.
So would it be like a school life thing for Fox too, like the school life?
Fox is in the academy.
It'd be like Persona 4 Star Fox.
Yeah, that's right. You decide who you're going to build your S-Links with on the Star Fox team.
Yeah.
Ugh.
In your vision,
Yes.
what main goal are you trying to accomplish with Armada?
The idea is that I guess the main. So my thing is that I really wanted to expand the story.
Yeah.
That was my main goal. Was just there's so much there that was left untapped. Just again, like Ben said, due to the limitations of the hardware at the time. And obviously, I mean, essentially, people, can take it and you can do so much more with it now that I feel like it's something worth looking into. But also, I feel like, for instance, all right, so everybody in this room has played Star Fox 64, right?
Spoiler alerts on Star Fox 64.
It comes with a rumble pack. I don't know if you know that or not.
You shoot Andros in the eye to shoot his hand.
Shoot his hands and then in the eye, yeah. Who here has played the multiplayer? Like, has anybody? Does anybody here enjoy the multiplayer experience?
It's fun.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, it's good
It's
for
not
a
as
while.
good as the main game.
But my thing was, I always felt like the game, like if they did the game now and they haven't done it with like the more recent versions, I was like,
Battle
what-
Royale, Star Fox.
Yeah, I
Everybody's
would love.
in PUBG. Yes.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like you could have online multiplayer, you could have online co-op. I mean, these are all things that people. I mean, again, adds another element of replayability to it, which I feel like, again, it kind of needs. But I feel I wanted to make it a more immersive experience, and I feel like that's one way
What's
of doing it.
interesting about a lot of these things is that I think we started this panel talking about things like you were talking about the logistics of war, and I think as we've gone on and we've gotten discussion from the audience in particular, there seems to be a lot of questions, honestly, about the origins, like the prequel, and like fleshing out the actual lore of it.
Yeah.
Like I
Like, what
almost
started the war?
right, but it's almost like I think we can accept the premise that this is an unrealistic cartoon war that is not based in anything real or doesn't have to live by the rules of a conventional war.
That is true.
And we don't have to worry too much about whether our attack on this base was what we needed. Like, I don't think we care as much about that as we care about, well, what about James McCloud? Well, what about this? Or what about that? You know, I think it's more like, who are these characters? And what do we care, you know, why do we care about these characters that should be developed on? Yes. Yes,
Did you ever think about maybe like expanding like out with other characters, what they're doing during the same conflict between Venom and Corneria? Because you know, Andros has a grandson, which means he has to have a kid who has to part ways with him at some point. So there could be a story there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something, maybe DLC.
Look, you could play as Wolf, as one of the, I mean, theoretically in one of these games. You could make Sonic Fox a DLC character. That'd be awesome. No, but I mean, you could do a whole lot of stuff with it. I think the key is, though, whatever they do, if they're going to add story or add any kind of depth to the experience that's not like a 2 or 3 hour playthrough like these games typically are, it's that they have to flesh out on the story side or replayability aspect. And I feel like that's really where they've gone wrong in the past. And any truly successful Star Fox game, I think both in terms of sales and critical acclaim, is going to come from there, where they say, what made this series great? What can we add to it to build on our canon, and then actually make a tight game that people don't hate? I mean, it's been, in terms of an actual hit Star Fox game, we have Star Fox 64 and Star Fox 64 3D, and that's it for like 20 years. I mean, the rest of these games are okay at best. And I'm not, you know, there's something to be said for Star Fox Adventures and Assault and Command, and like there's merits to these games, but they don't live up to experience. And I think if it's going to come back to Switch, which it really should, that's what they have to do.
All right, I think
Right, you got a question right there?
and
Sure.
then we had this guy also.
No, we were pointing at you.
Yeah. Yes, you. No, I'm just
Oh, wait, no, you. Yeah, right.
ahead.
All right, so what's up?
We've been talking about this prequel thing for the game, but we've already like seen the conclusion of like the Venomian army at the end of 64. If you go through that hard route, like where do you go from there? Like what war is left? Because after that we had the Aperoids in Assault, and then
Well, if memory serves correctly, and again, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there in some form of either spin-off or comic that Andrew O'Kenny, Andros's grandson, took over what remnants of the Venomian forces were left, didn't they? Sorry?
In one of the endings of Command.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right, that was the one I was missing. Command was the one I was missing. And then, yeah, obviously, so I would figure you'd probably do. All right, so I should specify that in my idea for Star Fox Armada, it's sort of arranged into campaigns, and so like obviously the first one would be your origin mission. The second one, now since they all exist within technically the same confines of the same universe, you could do Star Fox 64 and then go on to say the after stories, like for instance, O'Kenny taking over the Venomian army, then the Aperoids. Star Fox Adventures, I will admit, is not happening in this version of my game. It's no, just no. I guess yes, we could call it technically a soft reboot. But I feel like it's just fleshing out and
But what
points
about all
of the
the
existing
Crystal
story.
fans?
Oh no, I'm sure there's another anthropomorphic fox / whatever creature they can latch onto.
Yeah.
I'm curious about what else people want to see in a new Star Fox game, like
Yeah, let's
things that that they could be doing. Yes.
Yes, more Bill.
I was about to say,
Bill.
you know how in Mass Effect 2 you're pretty much trying to build a squad up
Yeah.
for a crazy mission that they're probably not going to come back from. Star Fox could do that with Bill, Cat, a couple of the characters from Star Fox 2 as well. When you go to their planets, you
Right. And
figure out what's going on, you help them out, it's like, hey, when we work with the team. And that's completely completely option, you could be like, all right, you can stay here, we're doing our own thing.
Yeah.
That could affect the ending, you know, that could affect certain dialogue.
No, yes, I definitely agree with you. And that we were talking about that earlier. Is like each individual character can have their strong strengths and their, their strong suits or their weak suits. And I feel like, in space combat, you could choose Falco and you could choose Cat and you could choose Bill. Or if you had to do land-based combat, you could choose Slippy, you could choose Peppy. You could, you could change it up and mix it around. Essentially, the same goal will be reached. But yes, there could be minor changes in dialogue, or so you could obviously go back and play that same scenario with a different group of people and get a completely different.
Yeah, kind of like how Fire Emblem does that. You play people they get dialogue.
One thought I had about things that they could add if they actually wanted to create diversity in gameplay, and maybe this is a bias of myself and my taste as a gamer, but if they actually wanted to create diversity in the gameplay and build onto experience, you were talking about the gummy ship issue, is that you could theoretically do 2D shoot 'em up bullet hell style as like small interruptions. Here's a 2-minute stage and you need to get through this thing, and it's kind of bullet hellish, but not, maybe a step down from a cave shooter or something like that, but something that gives the player something else to do, that ties things together, that gives you a reason to play, that's not built on overly complex mechanics, still is, the shooting is still core to the gameplay and things like that.
Oh, actually, now that you mentioned that, there was one gameplay mechanic that I hadn't gotten to yet.
It's bullet hell.
One of the things I wanted to do, that if we did, like for instance, if there was an online co-op option, like say your character got shot down, well, instead of automatically dying and just like, oh, you have to restart the level or start the next level when the team gets to that next level, instead of that, I wanted to like maybe their cockpit could eject and send them back to Great Fox, and they could man a turret and just basically be shooting down fighters for the rest of the mission, or something akin to that. I feel like part of that is like if you get knocked out of the mission and then you just can't play the rest of the level with your team, it's going to turn some people off to the game. So it's like, we'll put them in the game still, but
yeah, Zelda hat.
I like the last point. And like for the arcade shooter, I could see being something like Nano Stray or.
Yeah, exactly. Something simple.
Yeah. But I guess my main point was, we're talking about different characters being, having different skills, or ships in this case. But they've done that before already in Assault. Like I think Slippy and Peppy were better at Landmaster, and Falco had the best stats for flying in the multiplayer anyway. And when I said I like the 64 is fun to play multiplayer for a little while, but I spent hours playing Assault multiplayer with 4 players on GameCube. And I always thought, if they made a new type of Star Fox Assault like game, they could easily do multiplayer similar to Halo. You jumping in Landmaster, jumping in R-Wings.
Totally.
you could do land battles, you could do space battles. Anybody remember Star Wars Battlefront 2 for the PS2 Xbox era? Like
You mean the
those
best
massive-
Battlefront game? You mean the game that everybody always wanted that they won't?
They
make
won't give
for
us, yeah. I'm just saying they could essentially, you could make the online co-op that sort of sprawling campaign where you just fly to planet, retake it. Yeah, I'm sorry, and you, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to get your thoughts and kind of like the audience's thoughts on. We have Hyrule Warriors, like the Star Wars or Star Fox, kind of like Hyrule Warriors for that online multiplayer. You got 4 people, and you've got different objective points. You've got all of these Venomians or whoever just shooting down whatever kind of thing.
So you're saying release it as, say, a separate game, or?
I was thinking that might be an online mode.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I definitely want that as a separate game mode, because
So
I'm just.
the online mode would basically be like multiplayer Dynasty Warriors kind of thing.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah, I guess.
In space.
What if it was a puzzle platformer? No, I'm just kidding.
Ooh. You've
Super
intrigued
Star
me
Fox Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo
right, tell
HD
that.
edition.
What if it was a visual novel?
I think at that point, it would be kind of different.
That's a real suggestion.
3D, like, I guess rather than, you could still have limited, vertical space, but still have, keeps essentially be stations, and within that station,
Right.
you have to defend. But obviously, it would be on foot Warriors game, but it'd be an all range mode.
Yeah, and it would be like in space. Like some of them would be in space too.
Pretty expansive all range map. Yeah.
Like a Star Fox game would be awesome. I've also wanted a Star Trek game like that forever too. By the way,
Well,
but
who
that's neither here nor there. But
What if it was a dating sim and you could figure out which member of the team you wanted to date?
I mean,
What
really,
if
if
it
we're
was a
making
game-
if we're
And if
making
you were
the Mass Effect
snarky,
comparisons,
Falco would like you.
what if you?
But
were,
if you were nice, Slippy would be into you.
what if it was a dating sim and you were a bird and you were dating a horse?
So essentially, we're just making Mass Effect, but
Wow.
set in the Star Fox universe.
Ugh, God.
Anyone else? Any other comments, thoughts? Peter Parker in the back.
What about like a dual campaign narrative, right?
Uh huh.
Star Fox 64, like, my favorite part was the dogfights with Star Wars.
Oh, me too. I love that. Independence Day level all the way.
Like dual campaigns, one following Star Fox and Star Wolf team.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that they could do entire parts of the game with the evil characters and you play things as them, right? That would be interesting. And they could have a totally different color palette. They could have darker, like all the good guys could be in green, blues, like lush environments. And then when it's the evil levels, it's like this weird, dark,
Like basically, like you're living in a Zack Snyder film.
That's right.
Kind of like Sonic Heroes. I
Well,
guess.
let's not go nuts.
Let's
not bring Zack Snyder into this. Oh, sorry.
No, I would love to play like a separate campaign mode where you played as the Star Wolf team.
That'd
And
be
maybe
cool.
expand upon that lore, like, hey, where's this rift between these two coming in?
Yeah, because that story's never really come. Yeah.
No, it hasn't.
Actually, they explained it. The pig, he basically has been playing them against each other the entire time. He basically is telling them Star
Yeah.
Wars all sorts of lies about Fox and stuff like that.
Pigma, that dick.
Okay, so what? So, Colin, I have a question for you. What if we implemented all these different elements into a game, but instead of a Star Fox game, we basically followed Star Wolf, and that was like a brand. You could follow that story.
The Shadow of the Hedgehog of the Star Fox series?
Yeah, I guess. I guess if you want to go there.
I mean, and who's to say, like, you could do Armada and just follow this story with Fox, introducing these elements of gameplay, and then just, like, I don't know, 6 months to a year down the line, as however much time it takes to make it worth, people's time, give them this new campaign where you can play as Star Wolf.
Okay.
Sadly, the next Star Fox game will likely be a mobile game at this rate.
Kill me.
Yeah.
No.
It's a Gotchamon game.
Star Fox Go.
All right, we got one question in the back.
Yes.
Creating the original Star Fox for Super Nintendo, didn't he said like, oh, I'm planning to one for the Switch? But there was like a small like article, right? Wasn't that?
I'm sure they've kicked around the idea of. I mean, look, I don't know anything about what Nintendo does or what their plans are, but
I mean,
you
my
have
dad
to
works for
imagine,
Nintendo, but-
right? Yeah, my uncle works for Nintendo, and he gave me the Star Fox game. They already made it. It's just they haven't put it out yet. No,
I've already played it, you guys. It's amazing.
no. I can't. I mean, I would imagine that, like any development, they've probably done pitches and prototypes and things like that just to float ideas. And who knows? Maybe these things became other games. Is anyone familiar with I think it's Nintendo Land on the Wii U? I'm pretty sure a lot of those mini games were like concepts for other like big AAA things that they were just like, we're just going to turn this into a little mini game for Nintendo Land. Now you'll have to excuse me. There's more to it than that, but I think some of the games are like that, and I'm sure that's kicking around with Star Fox. I mean, it's a valuable property. They haven't given up on it. You could see they've invested in it in Smash Brothers and Amiibos and all this other stuff. I don't think it's going away.
Yeah, they
it's
gotta
just a
keep that
question of
IP.
how they want to use it. And I joked about the mobile game, but that will probably happen. There will probably be some kind of mobile game. I'm sure that they will make another game. Whether it's a good game is another story. Whether they just keep incorporating the IP into something and just say, hey, this is DLC for Mario Kart, or this is a weird Splatoon tie-in or something. Who knows? But they're kicking something around. They have to. They have to, right? Don't they have to? No, they don't. Mother 3, come to America.
This gentleman back here.
In Star Fox Armada, would you introduce G-Zero, which was that like...
Boy.
It was a baby Star Fox command, right? That does it, like Fox and Falcon
You guys are.
We'll make that an Easter egg. You can play a level of that.
Wow.
Like you beat all of it. You can
We're
play some
digging into the
G0.
deep
It's
lore.
like Chocobo racing, basically. Yeah.
They're going to incorporate fanfics into this game.
Yes.
I need my Fox X Wolf
Yeah, yeah.
fanfic.
Yeah. Right.
Any other comments, thoughts,
Any other?
ideas?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's been a very long time, so forgive me if I'm kind of forgetting aspects or have aggrandizing command a little bit more, but a lot of what we've been talking about seems to share aspects of components of Starfox command, like different branching paths, the inclusion of separate
Yeah.
abilities.
Yeah, and
I mean, at least with my initial playthrough of the game, it felt like it had a lot of promise, like things
Yeah.
mechanically nice, but there just wasn't a ton of variety.
I think that's an excellent point.
Dismissal, like now I got to go over here and do this same thing I've been doing 8 other times.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. I mean, you could take any one of these games, and obviously I've been very critical of some of these other games. I said, when they get away from the core mechanics, it sort of fails. But it's not like these aren't decent ideas. I mean, it's not like the idea of a tank or the little weird, crickety thing. Like, and I don't know the names as well as obviously some people, but like when these have some fun to them, but they kind of break down. It's not like they don't have good ideas. I think a lot of it's execution and expectations and things like that really bring it down. I do have good news. If you guys are looking for a new Star Fox type experience, there's this game called Panzer Dragoon that you can play on Sega Saturn and Xbox, which is now you can play on Xbox One, Orta. And I mean, those games are really good. I'm hoping, it's one of my favorite genres is sort of that on-rail shooter thing. It's just a lot of fun, and not many people execute on it, I think, with a really successful design. Sin and Punishment, I would say, is sort of along those lines, too. If people haven't played that on N64 or the Wii sequel. So hopefully we get more of those games in general. I mean, I know I was just saying, well, we should be optimistic that Nintendo comes through and makes another one of these games really well, but it takes a while for them sometimes, and it took a long time for Punch-Out, and it's taking a long time for Star Fox to get that real true sequel that everybody wants.
Yeah.
But the good news is we're in a great age where there's a lot of variety in development, and a spiritual successor will come around. Sonic Mania, people were really down on Sonic for a while, which is a much bigger property than Star Fox. And then this game Freedom Planet came out, and then this other game came out called Sonic Mania, and now it's completely turned the view of the franchise around. So things like that can happen with Star Fox, and I wouldn't be surprised if it goes that route. Some dude makes a indie game that is a on-rail shooter that does a lot of the Star Fox things. Maybe it has anthropomorphic animals. Maybe it has, maybe it has weird voice acting and stuff like that. But it's not Star Fox, and then Nintendo apes them or something like that. I mean, that's something that could totally happen. But I mean, they can't issue a cease and desist just for making an on-rail shooter. It's if they call them, Star Fox or if they call them Suncats, maybe that's a problem.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm surprised they haven't gotten a season.
I mean, it's a parody here, so it's okay. But I mean, if you commercialized it, it would be a problem, probably.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anybody else? Comments? No.
I'm gonna just say how much time? We have like 5 minutes.
I think so.
At 5:30 in this room, I'm going to have a retro game collecting panel. I'm going to talk about the state of retro game collecting in 2019. I've done this a very long time. These guys have seen.
We've seen it. It's impressive.
And I'm just going to talk about ideas, things I see, things to keep in mind. I don't like seeing people make mistakes that hurt them when it comes to retro game collecting. And I'm giving away a Ridley amiibo to one person in the audience. And I'm even bringing some games to trade if anybody likes to do that stuff. So please make sure to stop by at 5:30.
Well, thank you for...
In this room, Panels 5. This is Panels 5, right?
Yeah, this is Panels 5.
Good. Yeah, it's in this room.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for being a part of our panel. We appreciate it. And we also appreciate your input. I think that's everything I have.
Have a great con, guys. I'm around to talk.
Enjoy the rest of your fest.
Thank you.